Welcome on in, guys. Three bold takes, and today we are going to be talking about some draft stuff. Now, the NFL draft, for those of you that don't know, we are a college football podcast. However, the next step for these college athletes is the NFL. We're not going to go into detail very much on where they're going to go, who's going to draft them, that sort of thing. We're going to look at it from a college perspective as who is the best at a particular position. Right, so to start off with, we're going to go quarterbacks, right? Because that's like the game changer position, the most important position on a lot of people's teams. And we got some interesting names here at quarterback. So, Quinn, let's go to you first. Who do you have as the number one quarterback to you in the 2024 NFL draft?
Hey guys, when I'm looking at the 2024 draft, I keep it like this: KSS, keep it simple, stupid. All right. I know they lost some big games in 2023, but Caleb Williams, number one quarterback in the draft class. All right. He's got a huge talent pool to work with. And unlike some of your other big names, like a Michael Penix or a Bo Nix or a Jaden Daniels, he's on the younger side. So you have more time if you're Caleb Williams to hone your craft to the league that you will not have with the other guys. And I think that is a huge role in who should be the number one quarterback draft prospect, especially when, frankly, you're splitting hairs on his performance over his career with some of these other guys. So Caleb Williams is my number one choice for this draft class at quarterback.
Yeah, and I think it's almost a 1A, 1B, but I'm definitely going to go Drake May. Watching Drake May's tape, he has a huge arm, which I love, but he also was able to fit. He had the confidence to fit a lot of balls into windows that that were very hard to do. He was like the ACC Freshman of the Year, absolutely killed it statistically wise in the ACC. And I think Caleb Williams, when you watch his play, for me, it relies a lot on the gimmicks. And maybe that's because of his O-line. He had to move around a lot. But you see a lot of how he had to move around and extend the plays, and that's how he got a lot of his production. And so when I'm thinking about building my team, and I think, honestly, let's just get this straight. When you're drafting in the NFL and you're a fan, the top 5 teams that are drafting are usually teams that are just crap. Their organizations run poorly. And so where you're getting drafted, the quarterback's going to be set up very poorly. Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears. It was a poor organization. He wasn't treated right. I didn't think he was that great anyway, but he also got brought into a bad experiment and it didn't go well. He got shipped off. This is the same product for whoever gets drafted at number 1. So let's get that out of the way. But for me, I like Drake May here at number 1. I think he is the guy. I think he's got a great stature. I think he can fit balls into tight windows. He's kind of overconfident some, kind of cocky some, and he does make some mistakes. But again, kind of like Quinn said with Caleb Williams, he is on the younger side compared to some of these older quarterbacks like Bo Nix, like Michael Penix. And so that's why I like him. Bigger stature, bigger arm, really can fit the ball into some windows. And when you look at the talent around Drake May, he wasn't surrounded around NFL talent, which is another big thing for me. Caleb Williams, his season before this, he was with Jordan Addison. Not so much this past year, but Drake May did not have the same talent around him like Caleb Williams did. Fred?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a cool pick for number 1 for you, Chase, which I expected nothing less for you to pick Drake May as quarterback. But I'm right there along with you. I'm going to go with him at number 1 as well. I think arm talent alone is very impressive. Also, I think he's more consistent than Caleb Williams was over the course of the year, or the past 2 years, really. We've seen some really stinker games from Caleb Williams. We've seen some down games for Drake May, but I think overall, May's bad games are better than Caleb Williams' bad games. Now, there are some decision-making issues that Drake May needs to improve on, particularly taking sacks. He had a very high number of sacks taken versus throwing the ball away. Now, I don't know if that's, his O-line was that bad. What would he do in the pros? Like that's a hard stat to kind of defend or talk about. But I love his arm. I love his accuracy as well, and I think he's built a little bit more to be an NFL quarterback than Caleb Williams is. So that's why I have him at number 1 as well. Chase, you're not alone. Mine's for different reasons, not just allegiances to a certain universities. But with that in mind, Quinn, who's your number 2?
Number 2 for me, I went Jaden Daniels. I know he's on the older side, but for me, I see a huge trend in the NFL pushing toward athleticism in the open field and ability to grow off of that said athleticism. And when you look at this class of quarterbacks, there's no one to me that is a better fit for a pure athleticism perspective of a quarterback move than Jaden Daniels. So my issue with a lot of the rest of this class is either inconsistency or age, all of which can be worked on. That's why, honestly, drafting in a lot of ways becomes a crapshoot. But when you ask me who's got the most upside, that's why I put Caleb Williams at number 1. Right? I think he has the most raw talent and upside that could be honed into the right direction.
Yeah.
The next guy, I think in a lot of cases, if you can get a really good athlete who can just make semi-good have good decision making, that automatically puts you leagues ahead of trying to develop a guy as a passer. All right. So when you draft someone like an Anthony Richardson from the year before, or a Jaden Daniels, you're not drafting them thinking about the upside of turning them into a passer. You're thinking about the athleticism in the open field running the ball. And that's why I put Jaden Daniels at number 2. Is you're not drafting him for long term. Like you're thinking maybe after his 3rd or 4th season, we can turn him into a pretty good open field passer like the Ravens did with Lamar. If not, maybe we can still capitalize on a good run like the first MVP season with Lamar, that's heavy in the run game. And I think no other quarterback that's worth their salt in this draft class can be used in that way other than Daniels. And that's why he's my number 2.
Yeah, that one actually heavily surprised me, Quinn. I'm going to go Williams here. I think it's just a flip-flop for me. I think Williams is a talented guy. I don't really respect the comparisons of him to Patrick Mahomes. I don't really like those comparisons yet. People look at the highlights and say, hey, he's Patrick Mahomes-esque. Oh, he's going to be Patrick Mahomes. First off, look at where he's getting drafted. If he's going to the top 2, both of them have not great offensive lines. The Bears have better, at the moment, it seems like better skill players for him to work with. But still at the same point, you got to get past the offensive line that he really needs help in both of those areas. But I think Williams, kind of like what Quinn said, he's young. That's the big thing for both these. Will mold them. You can still mold May. You can still mold Caleb Williams. You can turn who you want them to be. I still think Caleb Williams is a talented guy. I just don't think he's this Patrick Mahomes level talent that everybody thinks as soon as he steps on the field that the Bears are going to be in the Super Bowl or winning the NFC or even winning their division. And that's the thing you got to look at. But I think a lot of people think Caleb Williams is that guy already. I think he did a lot of great things in college, but when you saw his production leave for the NFL, where did that leave him? A lot of that is on Lincoln Riley and the defense. At the same point, Caleb Williams still has some questions to answer for how the offense performed at points and how their season ended at different times. So, Fred?
Yeah, I'm going to go Caleb Williams here too. I think for me, just like you said, Chase, it's a flip-flop here. One of the things about Caleb Williams is he has a natural gift that other quarterbacks don't really have, right? Like he has that natural ability to just go out and make plays. And I think that's what the comparison to Patrick Mahomes is. Not saying that he's on that level, but I think his play style and his ability to just go out and play ball is very similar. I've seen him do some plays that I've only seen Patrick Mahomes have. Some of his scrambles from sideline to sideline, he ran 80 yards just to throw it 40 for a touchdown. Like those things don't happen often and don't happen from just any QB1 in college or even the pros. So he definitely has a tremendous upside. I just want to see a little bit more consistency in his play. And I'm interested to see how he fares against these NFL level defenses, because when we saw him struggle in college, it was against some very elite defenses, but also very confusing defensive looks. And so I think that's something that needs improvement on too. And you know, that's what happens when you go to the NFL. You learn these things, right? Like not every quarterback is going to come out of college instantly being able to decipher coverages that the NFL runs. But that's my biggest knock. Not sure how he's going to do in that department. But I think of all the quarterbacks, he has the highest ceiling possible. I just like Drake May out of UNC #1 to start and have an immediate impact. Quinn, let's go to your number 3 and let's try to hurry this on up a little bit. I think we're running out of time here.
All right. So for me, number 3 and number 4 were kind of a flip-flop. So for me, I just went for the guy that I preferred watching in college from a decision-making perspective, and I took even into account what he did in his early career, and that's Michael Penix Jr. He's got a crazy great arm. He makes really good decision-making. Yes, he's on the older side, so you're going to have to, get the most out of him really during that rookie contract and then that first-year extension if he ends up being good. But based on decision making and arm talent alone, I think he is a clear, great quarterback from his time in college football. So he's my number 3.
Yeah, I think for 3, I'm going to follow Quinn's suit. I think Michael Penix is, man, if this kid was 21, 22, he would be probably a top 3 pick. Michael Penix has an amazing arm. He can fit the ball into really tight spaces. Even though he had great receivers, there were some plays, definitely in the playoffs, that he just put the ball on the money that it looked like no other passer could do. He is 25, though. He's had, 2 ACL surgeries, I believe, Quinn, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So that's some trouble there. And mind you, after the first 2 guys for me, I'm not taking anybody else in the first round. I'm not taking Michael Penix in the first round or anybody else. But I think Penix is a really good quarterback. And I think if you get him to a quarterback-needy team that is set up somewhat for success, maybe like the Broncos, he could be a suitable starter right away and could help them compete. Because he's already mature. He knows what he can do. And then you put him into the right system. I think Michael Penix can be that guy. Fred?
Yeah, interesting. This is Michael Penix is on my list, but he's not this high. Number 3 for me, I'm going to go Jayden Daniels, and this is strictly from an athleticism perspective. I've seen in person him make some plays against Alabama that very few quarterbacks in college football history could have ever made. Right? Like it looks like he doesn't have to try hard. And that's what kind of scares me about Jayden Daniels. When he gets in that mode where he is going to try hard, there's no telling what he can accomplish. Now, the biggest drawback for him to me is going to be his strength, right? Like how will he fare playing more football games against, older guys that are established in the league? It's a different ball game when you talk about the NFL versus college, especially, on the linebacker front. So it's going to be very interesting to see him, but I think Jayden Daniels has an extreme amount of potential in the NFL with his athleticism, mainly. Quinn, you're number 4.
Number 4 for me is where I've got Drake May. My one concern with Drake May and why I've got him all the way down at 4 is usually with a young quarterback, if they get drafted high, if they're a high-end guy, they need to be sure that they're on their A game when it comes to decision-making. He is not. He also holds the ball a really long time. So you're going to be on an offense, you're going to be, and you guys touched on this, with an offensive line that's not going to hold up well for you, on top of making you make rush decisions. A lot of times that ruins young quarterback careers because they turn into seeing ghosts and they never get over seeing ghosts. That's my big concern with putting Drake May as a top-end guy. Because if you're asking me as someone who's doing a draft, what I want in a top-end guy, I want someone with a mentality similar to like a Jalen Hurts, where you can clearly see nothing rattles the guy. You know what I mean? that's what I want in a quarterback prospect. And so that's why I've got Drake May down at 4. I shy away from anyone who has a history of quick bad decision making and seeing ghosts, which you can kind of see even in his time in North Carolina.
Yeah. For me, at 4, I got Daniels. I think Daniels, when you look at all the quarterbacks on the list, Daniels had the most NFL talent on his team ready to go. He had a lot of production. You have Malik Neighbors, who's going to should be a top 5 pick, and then you have Brian Thomas Jr., who should be another first round pick this season. And also, when you look at a lot of his numbers, it's great. I wasn't a huge fan of him being a Heisman winner just because he played a lot of mediocre teams. And so when you look at the big name teams that he had to play, did he show up fully like he should have? I don't think he did. I think Daniels is going to be an athlete. I actually agree with you, Quinn, to the point of the Lamar Jackson-esque type of player, the athletic type player. I don't think he is going to be Lamar Jackson, but I think the fact of like the Kyler Murrays, the Lamar Jacksons, those type of guys that are athletic, I think he fits that build. But I think the biggest thing with Daniels is he just can't get drafted in the top 5, right? He's got to get drafted to the right team that's going to build around him, that's going to build to his athletic ability. And so that's why I have him down a little bit. I think he should be taken in the 2nd or 3rd round just so that the right team picks him, kind of like the Eagles picking Hurts. Having the right team pick you means a lot more than being drafted in the top 10, top 5.
Even the Ravens picking Lamar, that was late first round.
Yep. Picking him and like building their offense around him. If they would have put him in a Tom Brady type offense, Lamar Jackson would probably be out of the NFL right now. So, Fred?
Yeah, that's a good point. My number 4 here, I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this one. I'm going Bo Nix here at number 4.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things, now I've called him Bo picks over the course of his career. Obviously started at Auburn, went to Oregon, had some good seasons with Oregon. I think he does a very good job at his pre-snap reads, and he's believe it or not, he's a good quarterback under pressure, right? It seems like he makes the right decision when it matters most. And I think in the NFL, that's huge. Now, his footwork is not that great, and he's not very good on his progressions. He, especially this year, if the number 1 receiver wasn't open, it was always either a check down or a 4-yard scramble. Like, that's just how it was. There was no wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. You had 2 options, and if those weren't there, you take off running. And that's something that's going to have to improve, but I love his skill set. I like his leadership ability. And he's really impressed me over these past couple of years at Oregon compared to when he was at Auburn. So I've got Bo Nix at 4. Quinn, who is rounding out your top 5 here?
Rounding out my top 5, really, I think the first 4 I listed are the only 4 that if you had to ask me, like, do you have a confidence level over 60% that they'll be successful in the league? They're my only 4. Bo Nix, for me, does not fall in that category. So looking at the rest of the quarterback field, I think to myself, who's going to bring something where they're going to get drafted 3rd round, have the ego that they should have been drafted 1st round, and take that gripe and complaint, mold it into something better, and then make it into a pretty decent NFL career, right? That's what I'm looking for. And I think there's only one dude who really fits that description for me. You're both going to laugh so hard. Freddie already knows who it is, and that's Spencer Rattler. I think Spencer Rattler gets drafted somewhere.
No freaking
Hear
way.
me out.
No freaking shot.
Let me explain myself. I think there's no shot that J.J. McCarthy is worth anything in the league. And I feel the same way about Bo Nix. And frankly, I feel the same way about Spencer Rattler. And really, those are your next 3 names that you're going to slot in after who I've already put in my top 4, right? So for me, who do I think is going to actually have enough of a chip on their shoulder to maybe turn their career into something in the pros? And that's Rattler. The guy, his whole documented life has been like a hardcore narcissist who thinks he's the greatest quarterback to ever live. So him not being drafted in the 1st round is definitely going to motivate him. For me, my issue with Bo Nix is he's really old. It's like you put, he doesn't really do well getting past his first progression. You have to get past your first progression in the league. If his result is always to try to scramble or check down, he's not athletic enough to scramble in the league. And his check downs they're gonna start forcing check downs and intentionally picking check downs off. All right, so that his career's shot if he can't get past his first read on a consistent basis. And I just don't think J.J. McCarthy's that great, frankly. I think Michigan won their national title off of a super strong defense and a really good run game. So, yeah, I'm going Rattler. I don't think he's actually going to be good, but I also don't believe in anyone after my top 4. So give me Spencer Rattler as my number 5.
Yeah, that just actually made me look at the quarterback list and rethink everything that I was thinking about, Quinn. So I appreciate that. I also agree with the fact that J.J. McCarthy is just not worth the salt. And that's what's pissing me off because I got to put him at 5 because I feel like he's going to have a Kirk Cousins type career and just be mediocre quarterback that can get you to the first round and then that be that. The problem with J.J. McCarthy is, and he did show it against Alabama. I got to give him his props there. They called him out and said, hey, J.J. McCarthy can't throw the ball, and that's what won them that game. Let's just put it point blank honest. But for most of the season, it was Blake Corum from the 2-yard line. Here's your 13th touchdown of the season. So there's not a lot of hope in J.J. McCarthy for me, but that's what kills me is that I think he's going to be a second, third round guy, turn into a Kirk Cousins type build, and finish out his career as a not maybe a journeyman, but a solid quarterback that was reputable and could take his team to the playoffs and then lose the playoffs. But, hey, we went there, and that's what's cool. My name's J.J. McCarthy. So I'll have to leave that there because that's it. But that was a very off-the-wall one, Quinn. I appreciate that one, actually. Fred?
Yeah, J.J. McCarthy's trash. I agree 100%. And it's pissing me off because, like you said, every single draft board has him top 5. He's not top 5, not even top 6 to me, not top 7. But, okay, so at my 5, you guys have already talked about him, Michael Penix. Man, his arm is better than about half of the starters in the NFL right now, I would say. He has that type of cannon as an arm. Now, the age downside, the injuries, huge downside. But he's got 2 years of good health and top-tier production so far in a spread-out shotgun offense. Now, he's going to have to clean up his footwork, and he's going to have to be a little bit more – how do I put this? He's going to have to throw with a little bit more anticipation, right? Because the NFL isn't some guy streaking wide open down the sidelines. You have to lead them to an open slot. And that's something that he can do, but he did not do much of in college. It was mainly just a streaking receiver down the sideline, hit him for a 60-yard bomb, which is great. We'll take that all day long, but that's not realistic day in and day out in the NFL. So there you have it, guys. I know this has been a long video. I appreciate you guys tuning in. This is our top 5 wide receivers in the 2024 NFL Draft. Tell us if we're wrong. Quinn, Spencer Rattler, I knew you were going with him, and I don't have words. So appreciate you guys watching. We have a running back and a wide receiver as well as top 10 overall coming as well leading up to the draft. So appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you next time.